Welcome back to DAYBREAK on this 14th day of June 2021. Of course, many stories that are following up for you, including what we expect to be announcement by the Education Ministry, that is CS Magoha is expected to release the results of the Form 1 selection that should be tomorrow. And also today we know that IEBC is holding the annual voter education week, and they'll be talking about several matters, especially now that the country is preparing for the election of 2022, which is in less than 14 months. But here in studio I have Kabando, who is former Member of Parliament for Mukurweini. Karibu sana to the show.
Asante sana.
And I have Nelson Koech, Member of Parliament for Belgood. Karibu sana.
Thank you, sir.
You've been away for quite some time, but it's good to have you this morning. We're also expecting Moses Kajwang, the Senator for Homa Bay, and Dan Manzo, Member of Parliament for Makueni. But I want to begin by looking at some of the stories making headlines in the dailies. And on the front page of the Daily Nation, Ruto molds in Uhuru cabinet. President Kenyatta is presiding over a cabinet with divided loyalties amid reports that some members are only biding their time before they openly support DP Ruto's presidential campaign. The DP has himself said he has had secret meetings with CSs sympathetic to his political cause, and the story is on page 4 to 5. Then you also see the story of the judges whose fooling home in row over judges' appointment was list of the tainted officials a change. That is on the Daily Nation that you'll be in a position to see there. Then the story I just mentioned there of Form 1 selection, results expected to be out tomorrow. Then on the front page of the Standard, Uhuru won't save Jubilee as allies scatter. Political trends show that parties fade after winning presidency, and Jubilee is headed in the same direction, with Uhuru seemingly disinterested in saving it from collapse. And there are different leaders who've been speaking, including Anne Waiguru, quoted as saying that the rains have beaten us, our fortunes are dwindling, intense introspection is demanded. As we head to 2022, we must recognize that the party is now operating in a new context far different from 10 years ago. Then David Morathe, our job was to push those who do not believe in the dream of the party out. I am happy they have found a house called United Democratic Alliance. Our work is done. I am not interested in any position moving forward. That's according to the Jubilee Party Vice Chairperson. I want to begin there because Nelson Koech, you're still officially a Member of Parliament from the Jubilee Party. Is it over for the party?
I don't know. It sounds like the last sentence you read about Murade. He seems to be saying that his job is done, of kicking those who had a different opinion in the party. It's unfortunate that the party that we so much believed in is now almost in its deathbed. Very unfortunate. We had a lot of aspirations, we had a lot of dreams, we had a lot of programs and agenda that we had sold to the people of this nation. Yet again, shortly we will be going back to them. I don't know what the interest of bringing down Jubilee was for. I mean, many parties were collapsed to come up with one united front. And now to see it going down is painful, but as it is, like Murade is saying, it seems like it's done, and everyone is looking for a new home. And so it is. So shortly, many of us who believe in, and I'll tell you something that we seem to forget. It is, parties are individuals. Parties are the flag bearer. What is he selling to the people of the nation? What are they selling to the country? That is what a party is composed of. So for myself, like you saw last week, as from the Rift Valley, we had a meeting because we want to identify a person and have a covenant and a contract with that person on what they are coming to do for us in the coming general election. So we don't have a party where we support an individual, like is the case now in Rift Valley, and find that the people who opposed, for instance, from Honorable Kajwang will probably be joining us shortly, will reap the benefits of our sweat. So we want someone who will have a covenant with us and say, if we cross the bridge, this is what we will do for this region. And this is what I will want to do in terms of agriculture. That is why for once, we want to have an arrangement where we do not focus on individuals, but we focus on what that individual is coming to do for the region.
I just don't know how sustainable that is for 10 years. Honorable Kabando, in the history of Kenya's young democracy, if you talk about since, let's say the election of 2002, no party has been able to live until the next election. Because if it's Mwai Kibaki, NERC sort of died, and he ran on PNU. PNU did not survive until 2013. Then come 2013, TNA, URP, of course, they merged into Jubilee Party, and now Jubilee Party appears to be not as confident to run again in the next election. Is it the case of ruling parties? And secondly, what do you think can be done, if at all necessary, to salvage the little that remains of the ruling party?
Thank you very much, and really appreciate the opportunity to come and converse. I think it's a question, the party crisis and the inability of parties to be solid since 2002 is a reflection of inability to have a consistent vision at the top. Because the individuals who presided over collapse of some of these old parties or the collapsed parties had done good before. For instance, in 2002, Mzee Kibaki was elected on a National Rainbow Coalition. But then it collapsed, and 07 he was elected on a minority party called PNU, which barely had 40 members, I think 41, 42, in parliament. And was only assisted by small affiliate parties, of which some of us belonged to when we went to parliament then. But if you look back, the leader of the National Rainbow Coalition is the same person who worked very smartly under Tom Mboya, left Makerere, came to Kenya, and became the founding executive officer of the nationalistic party called KANU. And they did a lot of good work, even, the manifesto of the party, the, session papers, with Tom Mboya as a Secretary General. So it was a strong party. But then, after independence, problems came because of succession of Kenyatta, Jomo Kenyatta. So by 1966, barely 3 years after independence, they really were in a shibboleth situation, and they had to choose Jaramogi, even calling a national conference at Limuru to appoint 8 vice presidents in order to manage Jaramogi. Then, of course, 69, Tom Mboya was assassinated, and 74, JM was assassinated. So you could see everything was problematic around the time Jomo was aging and the sunset of his life and political career, and therefore leadership of the country. Then KANU came, again to be revived by Daniel Moi. I did a very good job in the early years. In the early 80s, KANU was very powerful, but then it became so personalized to the extent that it even set a disciplinary committee that was really a machinery to punish anybody who had a dissenting view and all that. Remember the Okiki committee and all those. So by 1990, KANU was in so much crisis that they had to form a special committee headed by the late George Saitoti to seek views on how to accommodate dissent and all that. And therefore, 1992, multi-party elections found only two really strong parties competing with the KANU. That is the Democratic Party, Moi Kibaki, and the Ford Kenya of Jaramogi. Matiba had the masses, but not really the party, but he had the majority. So in short, it is a crisis of leadership at the helm. Right. Mostly the way I see it, even in Jubilee today, it is more to do with what happens after who leaves. I was in the special committee of 15 people that collapsed the 14 parties in order to form the Jubilee. And those 14 parties included URP and TNA.
Right.
So when I read governor here saying, Kenya governor, you're saying 10 years down the line. Jubilee is not 10 years old yet, because we collapsed these parties in 2017. So Jubilee as a party is barely 4 years old. It's going to finish really active 4 years in August, when you are commemorating the 4th year of this second term and of the parliament. In a nutshell, the collapse of Jubilee is because the individuals around the helm, the leadership, are paranoid about what happens, and they want to collapse. Some of them want to deliberately collapse the party, right, in order to create another outfit. And remember, nobody in Jubilee officialdom at Pagani, the leadership, is legitimate. None of them has been elected, even in a sub-location. They are all appointees. They are all appointees of the president, as we speak now, they are not legitimate. So, Jubilee, in my opinion, is as dead as a dondo. Jubilee cannot be revived. I can tell you this.
So when you say they're illegitimate, there has been no election to elect other leaders. So does it not then mean that those that are interim should continue to serve until such an election?
But you see, it is that illegality and illegitimacy cannot be validated because why Jubilee has not had elections? You hear sometimes people calling themselves Jubilee spokesman from this region and their region. It's simply because it's a cartel of leadership. There are people who do not want any competition around President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Right.
They want to remain at the helm because of their greed and selfish interest. And I say this with authority, that the Jubilee as a party today, in fact, let's be fair, the only party today that is really a national party, which is incumbent as we speak now, is ODM. But in the current time, the only party that is organizing itself in the grassroots network across the country is the Wheelbarrow Party, the UDA. So I know other people will talk about Wiper, they will talk about ANC. They are all our friends, and we talk with them and all that. But really, those are small outfits, county-based, one or two counties.
And which one do you support at the moment?
It is not necessarily supporting a party, but as a political scientist and somebody who has participated in these parties, you remember we created Safina with other colleagues, including Governor Keretu and Moiti and Akinaliki. It's good to have an objective appreciation of the political reality on the ground. I don't belong to ODM, but I appreciate that ODM has a machinery across, and you can see once in a while.
Okay.
You know, then everybody can see that UDA is on the ground from coast to western to every other place. And today, as we speak, even in the news that I've watched now on Inoro and Citizen, in these small by-elections that are happening in a Kiamba and in Muguga Ward and all that, it's like a national competition.
Okay.
All right? The whole troop from parliament, from executive, the political party honchos, are all domiciled in these areas because there is a real competition between Jubilee and its affiliate party because they are affiliated with the UDA on the ground. Okay. Those are the activities.
All right, Mheshimiwa Wakabando, you speak as a political scientist. I'll ask you a question as a politician. But Dan Manzo, karibu sana to the show. And you're talking about the headline story there on the Standard, Uhuru won't save Jubilee as allies scatter. And in your view, because you've been in politics for a couple of years and you've been observing the politics of the country for longer. So when you look at what is happening in the ruling party, I had asked him the question of what has always happened since 2002. No single ruling party lives to the next election. Is Wiper in the league of survival? What has kept you intact, if at all? And what do you think will happen come next year?
Yeah, since 2007, Wiper has been growing steadily. But currently it is clear whether ODM or whether Jubilee or UDA or Wiper or NC, no single political party right now can be able to garner enough votes or by itself, or any of those political party leaders by themselves without a coalition. None of them can really be able to unite and put the country together right now. So I believe way forward in future, there's going to be coalitions. If you are going to have a strong party, whether it is UDA or any other party, you have to form coalitions to be able to come together and bring Kenyans together and to cover the country as a whole. So as a Wiper party, we definitely in coalition, One Kenya movement, and we are looking forward into strengthening it with further coalitions with our colleagues.
Yes. One Kenya. And we'll get back to that because we hear also that there are plans to revive the National Super Alliance. I don't know what the possibilities are, but I want us now to focus on something different. That is at the court. So we know that yet the president, or rather the president is yet to appoint the 6 judges. Of course, he said that he has unspecified intelligence that make him to protect the spirit and letter of the Constitution. But Chief Justice Martha Koome spoke to the president from the presence of the Supreme Court, and here is what she had to say.
All persons recommended by the JSC and as directed by the Constitution must be appointed as judges. That is the law. I am a judge. I do not want to enter into any controversy because at the end of the day, I shouldn't. I'm an adjudicator. But I'm duty-bound to reiterate this position and continue to call on His Excellency the President to appoint the remaining 6 judges, 4 of whom would be joining this court.
All right, that is CJ Koome. Let me begin with you, Honorable Manzo, because you're also an advocate of the High Court.
Yes.
And looking at this standoff, it's been going on for, it could be the 2nd week now that we enter, and there appears there's no letter from the side of the President. He still appears confident of the decision he made. What should happen now?
Well, nothing stops the President of the Republic of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, from reviewing his decision. You see, when you are, intelligence is never published in court or brought to court as part of evidence. What I will propose is that he appoints the judges, and immediately a process is kicked in to remove them through JSC, and through a tribunal, whereby they will get an opportunity to defend themselves. Right now, in accordance with the law, it's like being condemned and heard. He has information, and that information now can be processed once, because there are 2 judges. Once they have been appointed to their respective positions, whether the ones who are being promoted from a court, High Court to Court of Appeal, or if someone is being appointed as a judge, so that we don't contravene the law and we don't look like we are condemning people unheard. They should. My proposal will be the first appointed, and immediately they are appointed, that process of removal is kicked in so that they can be given an opportunity to defend themselves on the allegations. And at the same time also, it will serve as a warning. The delay will serve as a warning to these particular judges that there are matters which could be pending against you, and at an appropriate moment you'll be offered an opportunity to defend yourself. But again, when we are fighting corruption, unfortunately, this is the situation we find ourselves in. This is the insufficiency of the law as it stands now. And that's why going forward, we should, while reviewing the Constitution, we should make sure we seal these loopholes so that the President has a full authority. His role does not look like it's merely ceremonial. There has to be, the law has to be clear. If the President is to appoint, then it means he can appoint, and at the same time, he has reservations. I think that has to be defined properly.
So is that a reading as currently the law is provided for, or something that you will want to see through an amendment?
I'm saying in future we need to improve the law, because right now it's unclear. It leaves a gap which can be filled in one way or another. Once JSC has done its work, and the work of the President is to appoint, then JSC should have appointed the judges, and the President does in the future anyway. Why bring in the President?
Okay.
And then he has no role. Why do you bring in the President, as the Constitution does, and then after that he has no role, he has no reservation? So I think we need to close that gap so that what is happening now is a vacuum.
What role would you want the President to play?
If you are appointing, then you must have some power. You cannot be appointing and at the same time you have no power.
What to do?
You are exercising. Like even at that particular moment, it means if you can appoint, then at the same time you can decline. So I think the law has to be made clear in the future so that it is clear what the role of the President is. Because if you are appointed, then it means at the same time if you can have reservations.
Honorable Koech, there's a story on page 9 of the Daily Nation that you'll see the fresh controversy of appointment of judges. There are claims that the list was actually altered slightly, while the 2 magistrates who are becoming High Court judges, the list has remained as it were, but there are some names that are not in the list, and they are quoting the former Vice Chairperson, One Masideche, who served at the Judicial Service Commission. She's quoted as saying that there was a list from the National Intelligence Service of persons with adverse reports that were unsubstantiated. When I compare that list, as I recall, and the ones that have been gazetted, I see changes. There are some names that have been added, that's according to Dr. Deche, but also saying that it was just a one-liner of reports from the intelligence service saying that we have adverse reports against the following. And what do you make of this conversation? What is the place of the presidential appointment in your view in the scheme of all these things?
It's worrisome listening to my colleague Manzo. First, it's not in the place of the president to decide who becomes a judge or a magistrate. That is why we have the three arms of government. It's only for him, and the Constitution clearly states why it is only for him to appoint. Now, it's 2 years since these judges were picked. If the president had any intelligent information, then it should have been used then, not now. That's the first thing. Number two is that tomorrow you'll have a president who will say, start cherry picking. You pick a chief justice and approved by parliament, and the president will say, no, I don't want this one because I have information contrary to what you have. And you know, since NIS information is classified, no one can interrogate whether it's true or not. So that is a very, very unfortunate position to be in. And that is why, like Manzo was saying, we need to change many things. Why, for instance, do we have the judges being sworn in State House? What is the reason for that? Yet you have a registrar who is a court officer. You just do it in the courts and remove the illusion where the president believes that since they come to me, they submit to me. That should not be the law. The only way we will have, and you've seen how judiciary has been acting. What I've seen the president has done is simply to say, these ones have ruled in my favor, these ones have ruled in the favor of the petitioners, and somehow he seems to have a fight with them on their rulings, which is very unfortunate. Look at it. I mean, it cannot be that today, and I saw the list and what the gracious lady did say, is that even from the list of where the president has said there was intelligent information about them, he has still gone ahead and picked some who had been mentioned in that report, if that report was truly there. So you find there's a lot of conflicting stories about why they cannot be appointed. The Chief Justice did make a point a bit too late, but I mean, she came out also quite strongly, which I truly support.
Why do you say it's late?
She will have said it before. I mean, this noise has been there for some time now.
Thing?
She was a bit quiet. Raila Odinga, the leader of NASA, for once, is blowing cold and hot. You don't know what he's saying. I read his statement yesterday, and I couldn't make anything out of it.
Let's see what he said, because we have some quotes from the ODM leader, Raila Odinga, and he says that, I challenge the executive arm of government to share with the judiciary and the public the concerns and evidence that led to the rejection of the 6 judges. He goes ahead to say that the country deserves an informed debate rather than a shouting match on this critical matter. I hope we are doing an informed debate. Then Kenyans deserve to know why the various branches of their government take the positions they do on an issue critical to the nation as appointment of judges. Well, he appears to be saying what is reasonable. Why do you have a problem with that?
Sam, do you really understand Raila Odinga anymore? This is not the Raila Odinga we knew. I can tell you today, if there was, if there is one person who stood very strongly in support of independence of the arms of government, it has been Raila. But here, he's not saying anything. In fact, yesterday, I actually tagged on a tweet Paul Mwanga, and I said, this is something that I think you wrote, and it is misinformed. It cannot be today Raila Odinga is saying, give us the information. What information is given to the public? Is the president is saying is an intelligence information. Raila Odinga should have simply said, follow the law, Mr. President, appoint the judges, then have the Judicial Service Commission investigate on their conduct. That is all that Raila Odinga should have asked for. But now to go down and say, oh, give us the information of what you know, is simply just buying time and trying to look sweet in a face of capture.
But is it true you need that information?
Yeah, you need that information, but there's a place for that information.
Which is?
I'm sure there are systems. You know, the Judicial Service Commission. There's a way of removing judges. We cannot just pick any gossip in the village and say we can use this to remove a judge. There's a process of removing judges. And Raila Odinga knows that. He has serious advisors on matters legal. So for me to say that was just a story. It was just trying to tell the country that I'm here, but I'm not quite there. Those are not necessary. All I'll say is this, Sam, as I finish. Let the president follow the law. It is very clear. All he needs to do is to appoint all the judges. Then if he has issues about them, let him petition the Judicial Service Commission to look into the conduct of the judges that he thinks are supposed to be removed. And why then, if they are rotten, why do you leave them still to preside over cases? This is what I would like to ask the judges and the magistrates. In fact, I don't understand why they're still presiding over BBI case in court. What they need to do is to adjourn all matters until the president appoints the judges. They are members of Kenya Judges and Magistrate Union. I don't understand why when judges have an issue, they don't come out very strongly. When doctors have an issue, they abandon their job in hospitals.
Wouldn't then that interfere with the independence of the judiciary?
It is not. It is to tell the president, follow the law. It is not. We are going into a very serious...
Wouldn't that be misinterpreted as, or interpreted as activity?
It is provided in the union that today, those are some of the things that you use when your terms are not met.
Okay. Honorable Kabando, of course, the conversation now getting into, is it second or third week, and former CJ David Maraga confirming what Mercy Deche is saying, that there appears to have been a change of names in the list. One former Chief Justice Mutunga saying that, Willie Mutunga saying that indeed the president on this one, you're wrong. I mean, so much effort and so many words against the president, but he still appears to be unmoved. What is the best thing to do at this point in time to move the country forward?
If you allow me, let me just first respond to what they have said or comment on it. I think it's very disappointing that Manzo is trying to, but not, it may be still in the context of the wiper, you know.
What do you mean with that?
You know, you are neither hot nor cold.
No.
Because let me, you know, as an advocate of the High Court, you are trying to deodorize a situation that is very critical and very clear. All right? And the problem we have, even with the Raida's statement, is political survival, is the extraction of benefit of the state. The greatest tragedy we suffer today is that these parties that are supposed to serve as watchdogs of, you know, or oversighting, you know, political outfits because they are in the minorities and they are coalition that is not controlled in the executive, is that they are currently managed by the state. You see, these are things that may not be spoken about so bluntly and so openly. But it's common knowledge, and we know it authoritatively, without any doubt that these parties are now surviving on the state largesse or state benefits. That's why even a statement from a statesman that I respect, and my friend, Raila Odinga, is ambiguous. You cannot say whether it is saying the president observe and respect the Constitution. At the same time, they are complaining about the 2013, you know, petition. And we even saw after the ruling, they also went to State House. I remember Kalonzo and Raila went to State House to congratulate the president and say, we are going to be in the opposition and all that. So it's a confusion that is precipitated by some agenda that is very transient, short term.
I think in 2013,
because if you go to ODM,
they said that they do not agree with it, but they respect the judgment.
That's what they said. And that's it. If you respect the judgment, you leave it there. 9 years later, still bashing a Chief Justice, yet Mutunga Willie, who did not make an individual decision. It was a panel of 7 judges. And as Chief Justice, he just pronounced what the Supreme Court had made in 2013. So it is some bitterness and some injury that is not recovering. So I agree with the coach on this. Second issue. The point is, as Law Society of Kenya said, through its president, Nelson Harvey, as the Judges and Magistrates Association, which is a union for judges and magistrates, said, as CJ Emeritus Mutunga and the CJ Emeritus David Maraga and CJ incumbent Koome Mother have said, the president has no option. When you are elected as a member of parliament, like my 2 colleagues here, you are taken to parliament. The role of the speaker of the National Assembly is to preside the session, and then you are sworn in by the clerk, okay? Processed. When commissioners are appointed on various constitutional commissions. They are taken to the Chief Justice, and they are sworn in by the registrar of either the High Court or Supreme Court, as the case may be. The role of President Uhuru Kenyatta in this matter is ceremonial. And it is good. Even in America it happens. You know, once you are in, the situation may be a little, just a little different, but you know, we are very much like in the context of American system. You are, the president can pick a judge, then you are taken to the House, you know, either the Senate or the Congress, the House of Representatives, and then once you are vetted, you are taken in. There are some other appointees, like cabinet secretaries and principal secretaries, or even commissioners who, after they are nominated by the executive, they are taken to the legislature for vetting, after which the president conducts the same process he is supposed to conduct here. Yeah. He appoints those people. He cannot say, I went to parliament and then I have rejected, if there was public hearing. But he is given a discretion where it is about members of the executive, the cabinet. In this case, Uhuru Kenyatta refusal to swear in judges. In fact, to keep the country waiting with backlog of cases and people suffering in land cases, in environmental cases, and all cases for over 2 years is invalid, is irregular, is illegal, is unconstitutional. And for any responsible and patriotic party leader and any advocate to say any other thing is hogwash, wish-wash. By the way, are you not surprised that in the ODM party itself, the senior councils, who are the confidants of the leader of ODM, have pronounced themselves, quite a number of them. I have seen the tweet. Immediately, on the same day, the president was gazetted from Otiede Amolo, who was a pioneer Mundusman. Yeah, the MP for Raried now. He was one of the lawyers who represented NASA in the court where the presidential election was nullified in September 2017. So what you can see now, even from the statement from Raila, it has nothing to do with law. It's about political sanitization. And what you hear Manzo saying here on behalf of WIPA, you know, I was just saying the other week, just the other day, you know, his leader, the leader of WIPA, just telling Muna somewhere that it's good to have in a country a president who can reply text messages. Have we really degenerated to those levels? We all communicate in different ways. So you can see there is a struggle for Uhuru's attention, but the greatest problem, in conclusion, the greatest problem and crisis is that there is so much hypocrisy and opportunism to, like vultures, waiting for the carcass. That is the last year of Uhuru's presidency. So they want to extract the benefits in the twilight years of Uhuru's regime, and I can tell you, it is going to be dirty and messy. Wait.
Well, I think I have a right of a reply over some of the things.
Let's first listen to the judges that were at that event on Friday, including Supreme Court Judge William Oko. They spoke about this, and listen.
It is my hope, it's the hope of many Kenyans, that the Honorable the Chief Justice will employ her diplomatic skills to bring this stalemate to a closure sooner than later.
It is my prayer and belief that the remaining 4 nominated colleagues will join us soon.
All the heads of the 3 arms of government took an oath to defend, preserve, and protect the Constitution, and therefore, we must ensure that our institutions work interdependently and independently to deliver services and good governance to the people of Kenya.
Please, I beseech you, my Lord, do not bend to the deafening blitz of coercion and oppression from the executive.
Let us try to find diplomatic means and backroom negotiations that can solve the problems that we're faced with.
And Honorable Manzo, as you respond to what the 2 speakers have said,
Yes.
Your colleagues here, why have your party leaders, whether it's, of course, Raila Odinga spoke, but very late in the day, Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Wetangula, they've been notably quiet on this, and if they spoke not as vocal as they should, or as they would have in the past, and listening to the judges themselves saying that we're hoping that diplomatic negotiations can happen so that this is resolved, again, what do we do?
Well, it's for a reason I've stated much earlier. First of all, you know, the work of judiciary is to interpret the law, and the Constitution is part of it. And even legal opinions have been given by the Supreme Court. This particular text or this particular role has not been interpreted in any court so far. So if you had a court interpretation by an application, either by an individual or people who are concerned, then the president will be properly directed. What has happened in this situation is we have made a new constitution, the constitution of 2010, and for the first time it has been given a test or has been applied. And from a practice of it, it's been found there is a gap. If you are in the position of President Uhuru Kenyatta, what will you do? You have this information, which is classified. You have to release it then to JSC. There must be a system to do so. So my reading of it right now is that we have encountered this problem. How do you deal with it in future? Because there are going to be other appointments in future. It means when we are reviewing the... Are you
persuaded by the argument that the president should just appoint, and then if he has any information, take it before JSC, maybe eventually constitute a tribunal to try...
I have just stated here before that nothing stops the president from reviewing his decision not to appoint. Nothing in law. Nothing stops him from reviewing. He can review this decision with conditions that he appoints the judges, but immediately the information he has, because it is important to the country, and part of it is in public domain, the information he has then follows the proper channels of the law we have, which is through JSC, to have any of those judges given an opportunity to defend themselves or to be removed.
Okay. What is Manzo saying?
Yeah, but I haven't replied to Honorable Kabando Akabando.
On that issue, what are you saying?
You will respond. Let's first take a short break. On your return, we'll continue with this.
You're not saying anything.
We'll wind up on this as we dive into the state of politics in the country. So stay tuned as you text your views via 22422, Twitter's at Citizen TV Kenya, at Sam Gituku. The hashtag to use is DAYBREAK. We're back shortly.